Welcome! And today we'll dive into the stories and reactions to the post from Jimmy Mac 471 titled, Stop Crying and Grow Up. Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his pen so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. Oh boy, let's get ready for some stories. Stop crying and grow up. So this is my third story on here, and it is about my form teacher when I was about 8 years old. In all the schools I've been to, there has been a form teacher who is the primary teacher for most of your classes. You see them every day and they set most of the school work. The entitled mom in this situation was my form teacher. This woman was nice enough at first, but she had quite a temper, which could get the better of her. She had 3 kids at the school, none of them were particularly nice to be honest, and she would often treat me like an idiot because I was slow in class and had trouble reading. Also important to note, I was bullied a lot in that school. The classes combined 2-year groups, and there was this one kid in the year above who was a mean son of a bitch. He rarely left me alone, and the entitled mom did very little to help me when he was picking on me. I will call him Hunter for this story. So, here's the story. We had finished our first couple of lessons for the day and it was morning break. I cannot remember why, but Hunter and his friends were waiting for me by the doors to the playground. They looked like they were gonna beat me up, so I ran. I made it around the bike sheds and an outdoor seating area, weaving in between other kids while Hunter's group were right behind me. I looked back and saw that I was losing them, but being the idiot kid I was, I forgot to see where I was going. I collided with another kid who was running around and hit the tarmac ground hard. My knees were bleeding and I'd cut my lip. I moved to get up, but as I did I felt a sharp pain in my left shoulder. I had no idea what it was, but it hurt so bad. I immediately burst into tears, as an 8-year-old would, and couldn't get myself off the ground. Hunter and his group stayed back. They were only about 8 and 9 themselves, and the sight of blood had them spooked. An older kid from a few years above me picked me up off the ground and helped me to get cleaned up. I'd never met this guy before, but he took me to the bathrooms and helped me clean my knee and my lip, trying his best to keep me calm as I was sobbing uncontrollably. He had me cleaned as best he could, and by that time break was over. I have never forgotten the kindness that guy showed me. I just wish that most adults acted like that. He had his own classes to get to, so I walked to class alone, still crying but not as uncontrollably. My shoulder still hurt like hell, and I had no idea what was wrong. We all sat down for class, and after about 5 minutes of the entitled mom speaking to us, she turned angrily to me. Entitled mom, for God's sake, what's the matter with you? Me, while crying, my shoulder hurts after I fell over in the playground. Entitled mom, well, stop crying and grow up. Just get over it. And she continued talking. After about another 10 minutes she got so fed up with me that she got another kid in the class to take me to the nurse. The nurse had a look at me and could tell that there was something wrong. She got a sling out to put it over my shoulder and to support my arm, and then she called my mom. Mom took me to the hospital and I got an x-ray. Guess what I was crying about? A snapped collarbone. It was now completely in 2 pieces. It was a clean break, but still, not a good sight for an 8-year-old. I was allowed the rest of the day off school and had to wear a proper sling for 3 weeks. The entitled mom called home and said she was terribly sorry for how she acted and felt guilty for what she'd said to me. I came back in the next day to find Hunter had been assigned to help me carry my bag while I was recovering. He apologized for his part in my injury, an apology that seemed a lot more sincere than the entitled mom's, and he stuck by me for the week. As it turns out, the entitled mom was getting us to do a project in kite building, which I was not allowed to take part in due to a broken collarbone. Worst part is, my shoulder had healed before they were done, but they were so far through the process of making them, I wasn't allowed to take part in it. I had to sit inside for an hour, my shoulder fine, watching my classmates fly kites. I'm afraid there isn't a real happy ending to this. The entitled mom continued letting her temper get the better of her. She punished me for not being fast enough in a lesson and treated me like I was dumb. Turns out I was dyslexic the whole time. About a week after I was out of my sling, Hunter returned to his old ways and bullied me relentlessly. I luckily moved away from that school after 1 year there and have never heard from Hunter or the entitled mom ever again. And frankly, good riddance. Edit, holy crap. This has absolutely exploded. Thanks to everyone who awarded the post. I've never gotten anything for my stuff in the past, and this has just flabbergasted me with how much you all seem to like it. I've got a few more details about this entitled mom if anybody wants to know the stories, and I've enjoyed reading similar experiences posted in the comments. Thank you Reddit people. What are your thoughts on Jimmy Mac 471 story? Please share in the comments below. Now let's go on to hear how some Reddit members reacted to this story. AB 4150 reacted with: did you tell your parents or any close friends about Hunter and the entitled mom's behavior when this happened? Jimmy Mac 471 followed up with: oh yeah. The behavior that the two of them displayed is one of the reasons I moved schools. The place I went to next wasn't perfect, but it was a hell of a lot better, and no one has ever treated me like the two of them did. So I call that a win. SCRXNCH_Z reacted with: my brother had a similar incident. He was about 7 or 8, and his teacher had written her own maths question sheet for the class to do, but she had made some mistakes in the answers. Lots of other kids were shouting out the correct answer if they found a mistake. But for some reason when my brother did it, she shouted at him for calling out, probably not that severely. But my brother rarely gets told off, so he was upset. He started to cry and she said, loudly, for the rest of the class to hear, well, don't cry about it, grow up. This does have a happy ending. My mom reported her to the head teacher, and she ended up resigning a year later. Jimmy Mac 471 followed up with: well, that's good to hear she left. To be honest, most of the teachers I had there weren't much better. I once pinched one of these bullies for everything he'd done, and he punched me in the stomach and winded me. Next thing I know, the head teacher calls me to his office for starting it. Thinking back, my school was a mess. TacoDude10111 followed up with: this kid literally beat the poop out of me and held me by my throat on a swing. I got a warning to be expelled because I kicked him one time in self-defense. Mr. Reader chimed in with: guess I am very lucky since my school was pretty good without bad teachers. Cat J Sparrow reacted with: I had a boy I didn't even know mother have a go at me for wearing a skirt in middle school. I was 12. Because I was making her son uncomfortable. It was a school dance. My skirt literally reached the floor. I told her that's not my fault and walked away looking at her like she had two heads. The boy showed up at my locker the next school day and tried to slam it on my face, but it hit my shoulder first. I shoved it back the other way and he fell over. When I was getting on the bus that day, his mom ran over to me and started screaming at me for hurting her baby. I do not handle being yelled at well and burst out crying. My bus driver got off the bus as the woman was calling me a baby and saying I needed to grow up. He got in her face and told her if she didn't stop picking on his students he would give her something to cry about herself, then they'd see who was a baby. She took off and never approached me again. The bus driver gave me a lollipop. Dude was the best driver I ever had. He was like a cool grandpa to all us okay his route that year. Dreshani followed up with: that is so nice of that bus driver. From 1st to 6th grade I attended a private school, so we had no school buses. I had to take 3 city buses, about 1.5 hours each way, to get to school. I'd often have to leave to catch the first bus before 6:30 a.m. and it was often still dark. Being so young and other issues at home, I was often very scared. On the second bus the driver was super nice and often passed out gum or other sweets. He always let me sit in the disabled seats across from him so we could talk. It always made me happy and even look forward to riding the bus. One time this old grumpy man got in the bus and didn't like that I was sitting in the front seat, so he started getting in my face and yelling at me. The bus driver got out of his seat and told him that it was his bus, and he said I could sit there and told him to just take a different seat. At not being even 7 a.m. yet, the bus was almost empty and there were plenty of front seats to choose from. So he sets off, but the old man was still trying to cause problems. I got a bit frightened and kind of blanked out most of it, but I remember the man was no longer there and the bus driver was leaning out the door yelling something about how he'd better not ever try to get on his bus again. Another awesome memory about this time. I don't remember everything on how this came about, but the gym teacher noticed that I was often around school a lot earlier than it opened. I remember often when I got to school all the doors would be locked and I would often tuck myself down in stairwells because it was often quite cold and out uniforms were either kilts or tunics. Anyway, Somehow the gym teacher noticed that I and another girl would be alone outside in the cold. So he started coming early to let us into the gym to play ball. This actually went on for quite a few years, and other kids found out and started coming early until we built a basketball ball team and would play before school every day. Jimmy Mac 471 followed with, "Now this sounds much more interesting than what I wrote about. It's just impossible to know what is going through these people's heads. I'm glad you had a good bus driver as well. Somehow, the tougher they look and act, the nicer they are as a person." Infinite Unity reacted with, "Goodness. Just the title of this reminds me of my elementary school teacher I had. I was very sensitive and would cry easily. This was even before I knew I had a bad case of anxiety. I was crying that time, and my teacher, who was an elder, pulled me out and told me, 'If you don't stop crying, you could end up being bullied in middle school or high school.' My mom was peeved at her for that. Even her saying that would just get me bullied more. I hated the teacher at my school, I think even after she passed away. She was one of the first teachers I had that died in the middle of a school year." Idlesy followed up with, "If I were you, I would have gone to the funeral, and when you could see her body, spit in her face and punch her in her stomach." Now Idlesy. That's a little harsh. Don't you think? You know, sometimes we just have to let people meet their own justice in the end. Life is too short for ill thoughts and revenge. As that popular Beatles song says, let it be. Grainardo reacted with, "How do y'all have such good memories? I can't remember poop from my childhood and I'm still in it." Monster Not War reacted with, "I had a math teacher in 8th grade who threw a textbook at me because I didn't understand algebra at all. She was a real hagfish. I came after school to finish a test that I probably ended up failing. But I asked if she could re-explain the criteria before I took it. She screamed at me and said that if I didn't understand, then it's probably because I'm an idiot. And then threw a 1.5 pounds math book at me and almost hit me in the face. Needless to say, she got fired after that incident and the whole school found out." And finally Nico99 reacted with, "At least it has a small happy ending. You know what they say, small endings are always the biggest for you." Well, there you have it. A perfectly great set of reactions from a bunch of upstanding citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off. Thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. He must have found more stories for me to share with you. See you soon.